Hello and welcome back to Agile Fundamentals. You are starting your Agile journey here with us at Digital Agility Institute. So, continuing with our earlier topic, we discussed in the last session about Scrum, and essentially we talked about what Scrum is and what are the pillars of the Scrum. We talked about Scrum values as well and what Scrum actually involves. Continuing with our discussion about Scrum, in this video we will talk about a Scrum team. Now, essentially, a Scrum team is a team that would comprise less than 10 members, and then it is a cross functional team. It essentially means that it has people with diverse skill sets. Most of the times, when we say cross functional, people think that one person in the team or everybody in the team should be able to do everything, but that is not and may not always be possible. So the correct definition of a cross functional team is that it should have all the capabilities that are required to deliver the value it is supposed to be delivering or it is committing to, right? All the skill sets, all the competencies, all the capabilities for delivering the work they are expected to accomplish for fulfilling the purpose that as a team that they are existing in the organization they should have, and that is known as a cross functional team. Then it should be a self managing team, so that means you are not, as a Scrum team, expecting your manager or the leader or somebody to be holding a stick and driving you or directing you to say, okay, this is what we want you to do. No, as a team you are expected to be managing yourself, managing the work, managing the outcome, managing the dependencies within the team or outside the team as well. So a Scrum team needs to be less than 10 people. It needs to be cross functional. That means it needs to have all the skills and competencies required to deliver what they are committing to, and they should be self managing. And we always talked about this point, right? Delivering valuable and useful increment at the end of every sprint, right? That is the key thing. Value delivery is the paramount thing. Focusing on customer, delivering value for the customer is something which is kind of integrated into the minds of the Scrum team members. And then the pace at which you deliver as a Scrum team, the pace with which you are delivering your value to the customer should be sustainable. That means you are not peaking suddenly. One sprint you are delivering 200 story points, and next sprint you are coming down to 50 story points. That is not what is expected of a Scrum team. Are you able to sustain the pace of a delivery of value to the customer? What is the pace at which you can, as a team, sustain in the long run? So when you are thinking about that, you need to keep in mind the kind of requirements people would have in the team, right? You may need to upskill yourself at some point in time. You may need to be away as a team member in certain point in time. So all those absences, the requirements for upskilling yourself or crossing you skilling yourself, or for working on defects that might come out at some point of time, all those elements need to be kept in mind before you commit what you can deliver in a particular sprint as a team, right? So your pace of delivery should be sustainable such that you can deliver the same level of value with the same quality for a long duration. And a Scrum team is responsible for all the delivery and development activities for a certain product. So you, as a Scrum team, we are all going to work on delivering some product or a service or a feature or a function for a particular product. So you are responsible for that, and what all it involves, right? Collaborating with stakeholders. That means it the team has the responsibility, nobody else is going to do it for them, and that is where the self management also comes into play, right? Collaborating with stakeholders, verification, are you validating what you have done with your product owner, who is your representative for you from the business point of view, right? Are you validating, verifying, showcasing what is being delivered, right? That is something. You are also responsible for maintenance of the product features that you are delivering. And then you are also responsible for operations. That means essentially, when you talk about an agile team, invariably with the new Scrum guide coming through, they are assuming that we are a DevOps team. That means we are a team that has capability to not just develop but also maintain the system or the product operationally as well. And you're also responsible for research and development, for innovation, bringing new ideas onto the table, to be thinking out of the box, right? Everything that needs to happen within the purview of a given product or a function or a system that you are responsible for as a team, anything and everything that happens within that is within the purview of the Scrum team itself. So, as a team, you are responsible for everything that is required through the life cycle of that particular product or a feature or a function that you are responsible for. So, that is about Scrum team. So, a Scrum team has less than 10 members. It has all the skills that is required to deliver a outcome that they are expected to, and that is cross functional. They manage their own work. They don't look up to anybody else to manage. They manage the stakeholders as well, and they deliver increment that is useful and valuable to the customers at a sustainable pace, taking responsibility for everything that happens within that team, right? That is a Scrum team. Now, moving on to the next one. What are the roles in the Scrum team? And we already touched upon few of these, right? There are essentially three different roles in the Scrum team. The first one is the developers. So when we talk about developers, you may be a development expert, you may be a testing expert, all the people who are there to actually deliver the work, they are falling into the space of developer community. Then you have the product owner. A product owner, and we'll talk about each of these roles, is responsible essentially for the business representation, right? And the third one is the Scrum Master, the most important role that binds the team. And we discussed that in the earlier slide, and we will talk about that in more detail, what Scrum Master is responsible for as well. So those are the three roles within a Scrum team. Let's take a bit deeper into each of these roles, right? First, let's talk about developers. The developers are the set of people who are committed to deliver value in every sprint. And how they do it? By achieving the sprint goal that is defined collectively by them along with the product owner, right? So they are the people who, along with the product owner, define the sprint goal, and they are committing to deliver value. That means, as a team, we need to understand quite well, by accomplishing or delivering this particular outcome in a given sprint, what is the value it is providing to the customer, right? That is very, very important to understand as a developer. The more clear you are about what the value is, the more engaged you are, the more motivated the team would be actually to deliver what they are committing to and what they are accountable for, right? They are accountable for the sprint backlog, and they are accountable for the planning of the sprint. That means based on the available capacity of the team, what and how much of user stories or how much of work from the product backlog can they deliver in the current sprint, right? That is something they are responsible for and accountable for. They are also accountable for fulfilling the quality, and this is where the definition of done comes through, and we will talk about definition of done and definition of ready in the future videos. Here the quality of deliverables is defined by the definition of done. So in short, and adapt a plan on daily basis, and you remember the principle we talked about, right? We respond to change, we accommodate change even at the latest stages or later stages of the development. That means for us to be able to do that, we as a team should be adapting on a daily basis, right? How far have we progressed? What we need to change for us to be able to fulfill, right? And then hold each other accountable. So the team is a collaborative team. So they focus on the singular sprint outcome, that is the sprint goal. So the orientation is always towards the team. It doesn't matter if I have done 100 user stories, but if the team is not able to achieve the sprint goal in the end, it doesn't, there is no value that is coming out of the individual effort I am putting alone. So that is where we work together as a team, as a cohesive singular unit focused on accomplishing the sprint goal. So that is about the developers part of it. Now the next role that we are going to talk about is the product owner. This is again a crucial role because this is the role that represents the business in the team. And this role, product owner, is accountable for maximizing the value delivery, maximizing the outcomes that are derived from the Scrum team. And how they do that? By effectively managing the product backlog. And we will talk about product backlog management and refinement in the future videos. But as a product owner, you are responsible, you are the owner of the product backlog, and it is your responsibility to manage. If the Scrum team is not delivering value consistently, one of the things also need to be looked at is the product owner effective enough? Is the product owner able to prioritize the backlog in a right way? Is the product owner able to understand the requirements and communicate them effectively to the team? I'm right now focusing on what the product owner can have as issues if the team is not delivering value, but the same applies to the team as well. But in this context, we are talking about the product owner because the onus, the accountability, ownership for the product backlog management and value delivery and maximizing it is with the product owner, right? So what do they do? How do they make it happen? That can be made happen by developing and communicating the product goal and vision very clearly to the developers, right, to the teams. The more clear you as a product owner can be, the more clear the product vision is laid out, the team would be that much more efficient in delivering because they are very clear about what the expectations are. Then as a product owner, you are responsible to create the items in the backlog. That means you are responsible to create the features, you are responsible to create the user stories, and then prioritize them, communicate them, right, to the stakeholders, that is the teams that you are working with. Ordering the backlog means prioritizing the backlog and ordering them in the order of priority. That what it does is it gives the team autonomy to pull the work as and when they need, as and when they have capacity, not depending on the product owner's availability. It makes them more autonomous. It makes it easier for them to progress without any handoff between a product owner and it and the team. So, ordering backlog, ensuring transparency, visibility, and understanding. So, that means the better communication you can have, the more open communication you can have with the team, the better it is for the team and the better outcomes the team will deliver for the customers. So, product owner role plays a great, significant role within the value delivery that a Scrum team can provide to the customers. So it's a critical role in the system. Let's look at the next role. Last but not the least is the Scrum Master role, right? Scrum Master, I think we discussed this even in the starting of the session as well. It is accountable for establishing Scrum within the team, also accountable for the effectiveness with which the team is delivering. That means Scrum Master is someone who has to bind the team together, respecting their differences, respecting their diverse cultures, diverse capabilities, diverse competencies. So it is the Scrum Master who can or who is expected to make a team out of the group of people who assemble in a Scrum team. And he or she does or needs to do that by exhibiting servant leadership, coaching the team members as you need, coaching the people, mentoring them. There are n number of roles a Scrum Master would play. So the Scrum Master wears multiple hats, while actually playing the role. Uh, there is a great white paper if you want to read, that is 8 stanzas of Scrum Master, which is clearly explains what all roles a Scrum Master would play. Of course, we will also publish a future a video or course on Scrum Master itself. So essentially, Scrum Master is there to develop that cohesiveness within the team by playing or putting on different hats at different times as the team needs, right? Help the team focus on high value increment delivery. And that means the Scrum Master is responsible to take out all the diversions that can hinder the team from progressing. Kind of a shield, right, that the Scrum Master provides. Causing the impediment removal. Anything that is blocking the team, Scrum Master will try and see how, in the first place, try and resolve that, and number two, also help the team build their competencies so that the next time if they face similar impediment, they don't need to wait for Scrum Master. They can get it resolved by themselves. So it's also about enhancing the competencies and capabilities of the team. Ensure Scrum all Scrum events take place. So Scrum Masters make sure that the value of the events is understood by the team. The team is able to derive value out of all the Scrum events. If a particular team is not participating in a certain event, it's important that the Scrum Master looks at why that is happening. And that could be a good indicator to the problems existing within the cohesiveness of the team. It could also be an indicator for the dynamics that exist between the different team members. So it can give you a lot of information. So a scrum master needs to be really vigilant, observant about everything that is happening within the team, right? That is about the three roles within the scrum. So we'll stop here in this video, and in the next video we will continue with talking about other topics in the scrum, that is about the scrum roles. We will talk about other elements of scrum, which are the scrum events. If you look further in this scrum master again, how does he or she exhibit servant leadership for the product owner itself, right? How we talked about how the scrum master helps the team, but how does the scrum master help the product owner, right? Because scrum master is there to help everyone, not just the team, but also the product owner, but also the organization as well, right? So scrum master again helps the product owner to find and learn all the techniques that are required for defining the goal. That means defining the product goal and sprint goal effectively. Also helps the product manager, product owner to understand how the backlog management can be done, how effectively to write user stories. So he or she would train, coach, mentor the product owner as well, helping establish empirical product planning. We talked about empiricism, right? Scrum is founded on empiricism. That means it is about incrementally delivering value. So how empirical product planning can be established? How can the product functions, product features be incrementally delivered? What is that needs to be delivered first, on which we can build the product and scale it up, right, in future? So empirical product planning is something the scrum master would help the product owner with, helping understand the need for clear and concise backlog items. Every item in the backlog needs to be clearly depicted on the outcome that it will derive. What is that value that particular backlog item is going to provide? What is the problem? What is the requirement it is going to address, right? And it needs to be clear, crisp, and concise. You don't need 20 pages of backlog item, right? One item should not be around 5 pages, 10 pages, because then you are talking about too much of complexity. You remember that simplicity and art of maximization, right, is of work not done is important as well. So it needs to be clear and concise. At the same time, scrum master facilitates, he or she becomes a facilitator for the product owner to collaborate with other stakeholders who are beyond the team, to talk to the leadership, to talk to other teams, other product owners. So, and also if you are operating in, let's say, scrum of scrums or a scaled framework like safe, then scrum master also represents the team in the events which are happening at the program layer, right, at the nexus layer. So scrum master facilitates the stakeholder collaboration as well for the product owner. Now if you look at the scrum master, how does he or she help the organization? So we are not talking about scrum master's responsibility being limited to the team boundary, right? Scrum master can help at the organization level. How? By leading training and coaching for scrum adoption, right? By establishing the practices for everybody in the organization, plan and advise scrum implementation, right? So you talk to other teams, go and become a consultant, play the role of a kind of a consultant or a mentor to other teams to help them implement scrum, help everyone understand and enact empirical approach for complex work. How you can break down complex work into simple, manageable components to be delivering faster, right? And remove barriers between stakeholders and teams. Look at the silos being broken, create that communication layer, create that bonding, create that bridge between the stakeholders and teams so that they can start collaborating and communicating and break the organizational silos to become one team as a unit, one unit as a one organization. So that is the significance of a scrum master. I think now you understood why Scrum Master's role is so important in organizations. And there is a lot of things a Scrum Masters does, and we ran a 6-month program for creating expert Scrum Masters with our volunteer mentors working along with them for a duration of 10 sprints. That was an amazing program. You can watch out for that on our website and see what is the learning the people got from that particular program. So that comes to the end of our topic on the Scrum Master roles. And now it is the time for activity. This is activity number 3. With the understanding of Scrum Master roles so far, can you think of different ways in which a Scrum Master would serve the leadership in the organization? So when you looked at our explanation, we talked about Scrum Master serving the team, serving the product owner, and serving the organization. But at the same time, we believe that Scrum Master also serves the leadership. Can you think of how a Scrum Master can help the leadership and what would they help the leadership with? This is not covered in Scrum Guide, but we believe it is required. We believe it needs to happen. Put your thinking hat on and try and reflect and answer this question and submit on the learning portal. And we will see you back in the next video where we talk about Scrum events. Happy learning and thanks for joining.